Hello. In this video we're going to talk about a method that a student was attempting to write, kind of fix it up so it works, and then tweak it a little bit and introduce some shortcuts that might be useful. So their method essentially did the following. It would take an array of strings, which is right here, and it would return a random word from that array of strings. So the reason there's two parameters in my method is because the student would send both the array of strings as well as the size of the array. So we're going to see how we fix this shortly, because this is not an ideal situation. Because what happens if someone passes, say, an array and happens to pass the wrong length? So we're going to look at how we can have the computer calculate the length of the array for us. So this is my tools class. For someone that just happens to be stumbling on my YouTube channel, good programmers are always programming. Make a tools class and just kind of keep writing little methods in there. It's going to be a great way to practice and refine your techniques. So my tool class is $PM, and I have this class called $PM runner, which I use to test it. So I've written a little code in here. I make an array of strings. It holds 3 elements, and remember, it holds 3 elements, and the indexes will go from 0 to 1 less than the length. So index 0, index 1, index 2. And then I create a string, and I invoke my method selectRandomWord, and I pass it the array and the size of the array. So you'll notice now when I run this, and pardon me, I print out the word that's returned. So when I run this, each time I get a different word. Now, again, like I said, there's a variety of problems where I have to actually send the length as a separate parameter. The first of which is that what happens if I make an array that is bigger or smaller? It doesn't match it. So, in this situation, there's not a big issue because it simply is never going to reach. No matter how many times I run this, it's never going to print out 4. And in fact, I can demonstrate that really quickly by making an infinite while loop, an infinite loop here. And we'll just kind of do this quickly. So this is just a quick way of generating a whole bunch of outputs. So if we run this, away it goes, and it keeps printing. You'll notice, terminate it, never prints out 4. That's because it never reaches there. The only way to get it to print out 4 is to actually indicate the size of the array there. Okay. So the big idea I want to take away from this video is I should never have to separately state the length of the array. I should have the computer calculate it for me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to remove this second parameter, which of course is going to cause an error here because we don't need that second parameter now. So the way the student kind of set this up is they use this class called random, and this is a useful class for generating random numbers. And so they make a random object called r, and then they use an instance method called nextInt, and when they pass it a number, nextInt is going to generate a number from 0 to the number exclusive. So if a happens to be 5, it's going to generate a number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of passing a here, it turns out there's a really quick way to have the computer calculate the length of the array. Is you put the name of the array, which is items dot length. That's going to automatically calculate the length of the array, and then you never have to actually pass that information. It's really important that when you're programming with arrays, you always have the program calculate the length, and this is going to make your programs a lot more usable because you don't have to worry about going and changing that length value if you decide to change your program. So now let's look at a slightly different implementation of this. So this notation, a student introduced this to me last year, and it's a great one. And I actually had another student, a former student of mine, email me one day out of the blue and say, "Hey, did you find this?" Anyway, it's really cool. So notice in the example up here, I passed an array of strings. And it's good to note here that you can declare an array of strings by putting your square brackets in front of the type or the variable name. It has no impact. So what this notation is this notation says, I want you to take a string, and the dot 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 list says, I want you to take a whole bunch of words, a whole bunch of strings. And the computer's automatically going to generate an array called list and put it in there. So These methods, select random word is an overloaded method because they have the same name but take different parameters. And actually that should be a small s. So, oh, interesting. This is new to me. I guess Java doesn't recognize these as being overloaded because this takes an array of strings and this takes an array of strings, just notated differently. Nonetheless, what we'll do here just to simplify this process is we'll comment out this method up here. So let's call it select random word. We'll call this one A. There we go. Problem solved. So the cool thing about this notation is, come back to my $PM runner, I can actually invoke, let's delete my loop here, I can invoke $PM dot select random word, and I'm going to use this version here. I can just take the list and put it right in as the whole parameter. And I run this, and I can pass any oh, I should probably store this somewhere, word string word equals system.out.println word. So now I can pass this method just a whole bunch of strings, which it automatically constructs into an array for me. So I don't need this array, and I can put here, if I wanted, I could put as many things as I want here. And again, if I wanted to kind of print out a whole bunch of stuff, though this is not ideal programming form, I can set an infinite loop here. I can run it, and notice it just kind of goes on randomly returning one of those values from the array. So there's lots of great takeaways here. This second version is a little bit more of an advanced implementation, but the question specifically came from the first implementation here, and big takeaway in this implementation is never have the user or the programmer have to type in the length of the array. Always have the program calculate the length of the array themselves. The second implementation, nice little takeaway, is that you can have the computer automatically generate an array of strings of any size through a parameter setting like this. I hope this helped.